Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I've made this blanket. I'm making this with a really lovely variegated pastel yarn, which is like a rainbow pastel shades, and it's actually a yarn from B&M, which is nice and inexpensive. It's only $1.99, fully machine washable. Doesn't tell me the yards on here, but it's quite good, I think. It's just a 3-weight. Any DK 3-weight will do, but I really love this baby two-tone. I did already kind of start filming this, but I hit a snag, so I had to abandon that one. So hopefully this one will go a lot smoother. I had a problem with my other phone. But I love this stitch. It's really suiting this pastel shades really well. If I put the light on, will that make any better? No, I think it was better without. More true colour without. But it's lovely and soft, this yarn. I really would recommend it. Been very pleased with it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But before I do, I did also start making it in a chenille yarn, because I wanted to see what it would look like using this yarn that I'd got from Aldi in their yarn event, and it's So Crafty Baby yarn. It's called Sparkle Lemon, and you can see that there is this sheen to the kind of velvety texture. It's a lot more lemon. See if I put the light on, it might come through more clearly. It's a lot more lemony than it looks on screen. It's absolutely lovely colour, but obviously it's not very good with yardage on this particular one, because you can see it's really loosely wound and it's really squishy soft. So I've used a fair bit already, and I've only got that far. But I do have rather a lot of it, so it doesn't really matter. Did buy loads. But one thing I will say, in the early days of Aldi not making yarn, but selling yarn, there was some criticisms, especially of the chenille, that there was too many joins in it. And I did have an experience with it in the early days where I had a couple of balls that skeins that did have a fair few joins, but of course they're only joined by a really terrible makeshift knot. They're not safe joins. You have to undo them and do your own. So I got this one out, and while I was kind of just pulling out my first initial piece of yarn, I noticed there was a join, and the join consisted of about this much yarn. So when it came undone, I thought, well, you know what, I'll just leave it. So I started working, and I got where are we? There's the start. So I got all the way along with my chain, and then started working back on myself, and I got another one. So I just felt like I was going to have the same situation where I was going to have, I'll undo that later, where I was going to have lots and lots of joins in it. But so far that's been the only two, and it's so lovely, it's so soft that I kind of forgive it, really. But this is what it looks like using a kind of very chunky chenille yarn. Let's turn the light off. It gives it a little bit of texture, because I wanted to make a winter blanket for the baby, and I didn't just want to do a moss stitch. I want it to have a little bit of texture and show off the fluffiness, but and it doesn't make it really holey, because it's the other thing. I used a 6mm crochet hook, not this one, where am I? That's what I'm using, the other one. A 6mm crochet hook, and this one is a plastic clover, which I decided I wanted to give a try before I did my review, and the larger hook. So that's what it looks like in the chenille. So where's my end? I've lost. Oh no, here it is. Here's my end. Just move that out of the way. So with this particular blanket, it took me a little while to work out that we need multiples of 3. I don't know why I'm so bad at working out the multiples. But yeah, multiples of 3. And for that particular size blanket, which isn't small, it is quite a size, I wanted it to be a nice old-fashioned big blanket, and I used 106 chain to get one that size in the DK. Now in the chenille I did 72 chain, and that gave me a nice size 2, although that one's not going to be as big as the DK, the 3-weight. But you can just adjust it however you want. So if you want to make it smaller to go on a little stroller or on a car seat, then you can do that. Just adjust the chain, the amount of chain you use. Likewise, if you want to make it with a 4-weight or a chunky, which is, I think you call a bulky in the US, then just by all means do adjust that, but adjust your hook size, and you can just make it however size you want. So I'm going to show you how I did it then. And so you just need to make a slip knot. I need a nice long chain, end, just to sew it in. And I'm going to do a multiple of 3 chains. So I'm going to do about 36 for this swatch, and we just yarn over and pull it through the loop. Yarn over and pull it through the loop. Simple as that. So I've done 3. I'm not going to count them out loud because it's really off-putting if you try to do it as well and someone else is counting at a different rate. So I'm going to pause the video in a sec while I make my chain. But I just want to say beforehand, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It's over here somewhere, and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos. I'm also going to make this one left-handed and right-handed, so please make sure you get the right one. If not, there'll be a little card that pops up about now to inform you that you're in the wrong one. So I'm just going to pause it then while I get my chain done. Okay, so now I do have my 36 chain, and I'm going to show you how we did the blanket stitch, and I believe that's what it's called, blanket stitch. I may be wrong, but that's what I've always known it as, just blanket stitch. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so that you can see what I'm doing. So this loop on the hook doesn't count, and we need to do a UK treble, which is a US double, in the 3rd one from the hook. So there's our first, our second. So I'm yarning over, and I'm going to go into that 3rd one, yarn over and pull up my loop. So I've got 3, and I'll yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now that's a treble crochet in the UK or a double in the US. I'm going to do it again in the same space. So there we are. I've now got my 2 and my 2 chain, which will count as a 3rd. So now I'm going to skip 2. There's 1, there's 2, and in the 3rd one I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop. And this is a UK double or a US single crochet. Just going to pull through both. And now I'm going to do 2 UK trebles, which of course is a US double, in the same chain space. And that same chain. And that's our cluster. And all of our clusters will consist of this one little stitch and the 2 taller ones. So it'll be, if you're in the UK, it's a double and 2 trebles. If you're in the US, it's a single and 2 doubles. So now again, I'm going to skip, I'm going to hold that in my fingers. I'm going to skip 2. So there's 1, 2, and in the 3rd one, I'm just going to go in. And I'm going to do my cluster, my 3 stitches, all in that one chain. I know it pulls it a little bit and it will look loopy just for now, but it's okay. Sorry, I just needed to pull out a bit of yarn. It was getting stuck under my drink. But if I let the yarn go, it gets caught in, got a divider in the table, and it likes to get caught in the slot, so it just annoys me. So I'm going to skip my 2 into my 3rd, and I'm going to do my cluster just as I did before, and that is our repeat. We're going to do that all the way along until you get to the last 3 chain, and we're going to do something different in those last 3. because our edges will always be the same. Sorry, I'm moving. It's because I'm zoomed. So it looks like a long, like a big movement, but it's really not. I don't know what happened. I already filmed this once, but it was narrow. And I hadn't had that happen before. It wasn't up the wrong way. It was just narrow, which, if that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I'm hoping that if I just restart my phone, the other one, it will work, because I like that one to record on. Okay, so we're just continuing to do the same all the way along. I'm going to pause this and make my way to the end, but this is what it should be looking like. So you've got, in each one, you've got your UK double 2 trebles, or US single 2 doubles, skip 2, and in the third one we go. So I'm going to carry on all the way to the end, and when I've got my last 3 chain, I'm going to come back to you. Right, so this is what it looks like, and I've got my last 3. So we always do this when we get to the end. We're going to skip our 2, and in our last stitch we're just going to do our UK double or US single, and that's it. Now we're going to do 2 chain and turn, and now we're going to be working in the back. So we always start the row exactly the same way, and we always end the row exactly the same way. So in the same stitch here, this one here that we ended off our single here, we're going to do 2 UK trebles. And I know this cluster starts with 2 chain, so it's slightly different from the others, but we need that for the edge, to keep our edge nice and straight. So that's what it looks like now, and we're going to find, after our cluster, we're going to find the single crochet US, or what we would have as a double, and we're going to start our cluster in there. So there's our first, a second, and our third stitch of our cluster. And now we're going to skip over this, and we're going to go into that one there, which is our smaller stitch from the previous round, our UK double. And we're going to start our cluster again. And all we're doing really is pulling it over. So we're pulling it over this previous cluster and going into the UK double or US single. We're going to do our cluster in there. We're going to do that all the way to the end. Once you get used to where you're going, it's very easy. And just all the way along. And that's what it looks like now. You kind of see that they're almost a little offset. So when I was making the blanket with this yarn, I got 2 rows before my colours changed when I was doing, when I did my 106 chain. And I guess it didn't always fall, but it looked as if it did. And I kind of, the colour change being so gradual and subtle, it looked like 2 rows of each colour, and it was nice and even. But obviously this is a small swatch, and so the colour change will be a lot further away, if you know what I mean. It won't change quite so often. And we're almost at the end. If I go ahead of you, then by all means just please pause the video and catch up with me. I have to say though, I haven't really chanced these hooks at speed, because the last time I had a tulip, every time I got speedy, I lost my stitch. So now there we are, we're at the end, and what we're going to do now is we're looking at this end here. There's our first chain. Remember, these are the 2 at the end, and there's our second. So we're going to go into that top chain and do our UK double or US single to end it off. And we're going to chain 2 and turn. And now this is what it's looking like. So we're now just going to repeat that. So we start every row exactly the same way with our 2 chain and our 2 UK trebles or US doubles in that first stitch. And then we skip over this and we find our UK double or US single and we start our cluster all over again. And then this particular stitch is very nice and enclosed, and it's, as I've mentioned, I've probably mentioned, I can't remember if I mentioned it or if I mentioned it in the previous video that didn't work, that it's not a yarn eater. It's a good solid kind of blanket, so nice for a winter project. And at the same time, it's not, although it looks like a bobble, it's not a bobble stitch, so it's not a yarn eater, which is really good. I like it a lot. I've been really impressed with both the yarn and the stitch. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I can't remember if it was in this video or the one I had to scrap. It was so annoying because it went so well. It's always the way, isn't it? It went so well, no fluffs, nothing wrong. And when I saved it, it was this narrow strip in the middle of the actual video, and all what my hands were doing around it were lost. And I just hope it wasn't an update to that software that's caused it. I can't see any way of changing parameters on it. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that by turning my phone off and on again, it will work. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try and do everything with this phone, and it doesn't have the memory, which isn't good. So here we are at the end again, and our end is always the same. We finish our last cluster and we find our top chain, which is there, and we just go in and do our UK double or US single. And now we can see it's starting to take shape. We do our 2 chain. I'm still zoomed, which is why I kind of have to try not to go off camera, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing and where I'm going. So there we are, there's our first cluster. Remember, it's different. And we're going to find our small stitch and start our clusters all over again. And I do think now that my yarn colours change into from a peachy colour to a kind of a cool coloured pink. A warm peach to a cool pink. I think so, yeah. Looks like it. So I'm holding it properly. It works up nice and quickly too, this stitch, which is good. Especially in that chenille. Really does work fast because it's nice chunky yarn. It would be lovely in cuddly blanket. So if I just stop now and show you, that's how it's looking. You just see it does look like a little bobble stitch, even though it isn't. And all I've ever known it by, as I said, is blanket stitch, and I don't know if that is the actual name of it or not. But it's pretty. And this is how we just carry on. Just repeat. And the only thing you have to remember is the start and the end are different. And just carry on. And you can make it whatever size you want. And all I will do for my border is, I don't know if I said this on the previous one or on this one, because it's a nice kind of bobbly texture, and I'm just going to do a plain border, and that border will be UK double crochets, which in the US is single, so I'll just do about an inch roughly, or 3/4 of an inch of that all the way around, just a no fuss border. So I'm at the end again. Just remember, into your top chain of your 2, and there we go, just 2 to turn. I just want to just do a little bit and show you how it kind of looks when you've got a little bit underway. It won't do much colour changing though, unfortunately, because I'm only doing a small swatch for you. There's no point in showing you a whole blanket when all you have to do is multiples of 3 to get it whatever size that you want. And as long as you're careful by doing the beginning of the row in the right way and the end of the row in the right way, you can't go wrong. Well, you shouldn't be able to go wrong, but there you go. It's nice, pretty stitch, and absolutely lovely yarn. I would just definitely recommend this yarn if you can get your hands on some of this. It's lovely, and I know that there are others very similar because I've seen it. I don't remember what international kind of brands I've seen with this same kind of colour change and this same pattern, but I know that they do it in Poundland. It's just I think it's baby marble from what I've seen. I need to pull some new yarn out. If you look at James C. Brett, I think they do one called Baby Marble, and it reminds me a lot of the Baby Marble. So you should be able to get hold of some of these yarns. Although this one, although it does have that white interlocking round it, it's not quite as marbly. Perhaps it's because it's very, very pastel shades. It does split a little bit, but this hook so far I've not noticed the splitting. It was only the way I was holding it there around my phone that caused that to happen. But yeah, I have to say, so far I've been quite pleasantly surprised with this hook, because as I said, on the last tulip I had, I dropped stitches because they do tend to angle. But these, I don't know, these ones are great. I've been so far so good, I have to say. So I'm at the end, once again, the top chain, which is that one there. I seem to have to force my way into the top one. There we go. So that's what it's going to be looking like. And just carry on in those rows. On this side, I'm on my 3rd, and on that side I've got 2. So yeah, just decide if you want this to be your front or this. It's one of those stitches that really doesn't matter, but I guess the border will matter. So thank you so much for watching, and as I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos. Sorry about that, didn't mean to knock the camera, but thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.